It's day 26, 21,454 verses to go. Having waded through a list of kings yesterday who either killed each other or burned themselves alive, we finally arrive at a character we can like again. Although he's a bit of a weirdo because he lives in a ravine and he's fed by ravens. This is like Mary Poppins in reverse. After he's been fed by the birds for a little while, he goes and he asks a widow for her last meal. But that's okay because God makes her oil and flour last forever, and then Elijah raises her son from the dead. So Elijah is a prophet at the time of King Ahab, who's pretty bad news, and he's married to Jezebel, who is seriously bad news. And because Ahab and Jezebel are worshipping Baal, Elijah goes up to them and says, let's have a prophet off. The prophets of Baal can build an altar and cry out to their God, and I'll build an altar and cry out to mine. The God who answers with fire from heaven. Let's just say he's the real one. The prophets of Baal give it a go, and when nobody answers, they get a bit frantic and they start cutting themselves with swords. And Elijah is loving it, and he says, well, just shout louder. Maybe he's sleepy. Hey, maybe he's on a package holiday. This goes on for hours, and there's absolutely nothing. Then Elijah builds an altar, pours water all over it, just to make a point, whispers a little prayer, and flipping woof! Elijah's God has clearly won the challenge, and so Elijah shakes hands with all the prophets of Baal, and they go their separate way. Oh no, wait. Jezebel swears to take revenge, and so Elijah pegs it and has a little moan at God and hopes to die, but God comforts him by giving him some food and water and promising him a successor called Elisha. That's kind of confusing. You couldn't have just called him Dave. Ahab, the king of Israel, then shows his courage when his enemy Ben-Hadad says, give me all your gold and your wives and your children. And Ahab just says, okay. Thankfully for Ahab, God steps in and says, I'm not having that, and he defeats Ben-Hadad's army. Ahab goes to a guy called Naboth and he says, hey, can I have your vineyard to use as a vegetable patch? Naboth's like, I'd rather not if you don't mind, pal, and so his darling wife Jezebel has him stoned to death so Ahab can steal it. He doesn't exactly get away with it because God promises through Elijah that dogs are going to eat them and lick up their blood. Ahab gets killed in a battle and the dog licking thing really does happen. Then Elijah gets carried up to heaven in a chariot of fire and Elisha takes over. And one of the first things he does is make sure a load of youths get mauled by bears. This book is crazy. Tune in tomorrow for more terrible kings.